Okay, so out of the horror films I've seen of 2012, 2012 hasn't been a good year for horror. Like, I've only seen like the more mainstream releases of horror films, let's say. Like, I'm pretty sure there's some like good movies. I mean, like, Bloody Disgusting made a top 10 list of 2012. And they've listed, for the most part, the films they listed were just random films I've never heard of in my life. I was like, what the hell is all this? Where were these movies? So I guess they're just like, there's probably a bunch of good horror movies released this year, but they're more obscure, like smaller releases, like foreign indie releases or something like that, which I've never heard of. But out of the horror movies I've seen at least, or let's say the more mainstream releases, for the most part, horror hasn't been going so well this year. Can you count The Raven as a horror? If you can, I would say that was an okay film. I didn't mind The Raven. That was okay. It wasn't awful. Same for Silent Hill 2. I mean, that was entertaining at least. Silent Hill 2 was really entertaining. I will buy that film on Blu-ray because it was entertaining. I really enjoyed that. Silent Hill 2 is worth watching. I don't care what anyone says. That was a really entertaining film. But then does Resident Evil 5 count as horror? Because that was god awful. It wasn't even entertaining, that was just boring. Like, the action scenes got monotonous really quickly. So if Resident Evil Retribution counts as horror, that was bad. That was really bad. Okay, so movies I've seen of 2012 are horror movies which are atrociously bad. VHS. So many good reviews online. Why is everyone praising this film? Paranormal Activity 4. I will take any shot I can to step on Paranormal Activity because I really despise Paranormal Activity, like really intensely, or really like burning passion. I hate Paranormal Activity. So Paranormal, watching that film was really warming to my heart and to my well-being as a person because it was so bad. So like, I can kind of acknowledge why people would like the first film, I suppose, I guess. So, like, when people are trying to tell me that Paranormal Activity is awesome, or like the whole entire series is awesome, it's just like, no, Paranormal Activity 4 sucked. Okay, let's move on from Paranormal Activity. I'm just going to bitch about that for like half an hour otherwise, because I really hate those films. Okay, moving on. There's a lot of shitty 2012 horror movies, like The Apparition, The Possession, The Devil Inside, The Pact, and I already said VHS. Wait a minute. Smiley, that's it, Smiley. That's the other really god-awful one. Gee, that film was bad. Okay, so there's a lot of really shitty 2012 horror movies. I haven't seen The Collection yet. Although, if it's any, like, The Collector was pretty, bad, but at least it was the entertaining kind of bad. The Collection, it looks bad, but at least entertaining. So, at least the Collection is enjoyable, and you can smile about that film because it's fun. I'll get around to seeing it, but that looks like a fun movie, The Collection. It looks bad, but it looks fun, at least. It looks really entertaining. Like, it's a movie you see to watch people getting cut up, you know? And a lot of us find that entertaining, so for us, that movie should be a godsend. So, other movies, I haven't seen these movies. The House at the End of the Street and Wrong Turn 5. I haven't seen those movies. Although, I think it's fair to say they are bad. Like, it's safe to assume they are bad without watching them. I mean, they've gotten pretty bad reviews, and geez, just look at the trailers. You can tell, you know when these movies are going to be bad, for the most part. So the only two horror movies which I've seen which I would say were good, would be The Cabin in the Woods. Cabin in the Woods was amazing. I dug the hell out of Cabin in the Woods. Honestly, I would go as far as to say it's one of my favourite movies of all time. I enjoyed Cabin in the Woods big time. I recently got it on Blu-ray for Christmas. I really, really loved Cabin in the Woods. If you haven't seen it yet, I implore you to watch it. That's a really polarising film. Some people like despise that film with like a really burning hatred, but I loved Cabin in the Woods. So the only other good horror movie of 2012 which I've seen, aside from Silent Hill 2, will be Sinister. Sinister, okay, let's talk about the story for a second. So, Sinister, Ethan Hawke, that's the name, you know, Ethan Hawke, the actor, of course. I don't know the name of the character, so I'm going to refer to the character as Ethan Hawke throughout the duration of this review. But Ethan Hawke, he's like this true crime novelist, writer kind of guy. He writes about true crimes, but basically he moves into a murder house in the backyard that the previous owners were hanged from the tree. And basically Ethan Hawke, he and his family move into this house, and he's like investigating the murder. And in the attic of the house, he discovers a box of snuff films. Each of these Super 8mm films is showing a different family getting killed. And basically, it's kind of like a mystery movie. It's Ethan Hawke trying to figure out who murdered these people and what connection the family has, all of these different families have. You know, and of course, like why did this person kill these people, of course. And so it's kind of like a mystery movie. So of course, like the murders, like they date back to like the 50s or 60s, I can't remember, 50s or 60s, something like that. So then like you know, the mystery is getting more interesting because they're kind of like raising the question. So if the guy, is this the same guy? Is he a copycat killer, or you know, what's going on here? Like otherwise this guy who is 80 years old is still like overpowering people and murdering people. So he's, you know, it's raising some interesting questions here. So on the surface, you've got an interesting mystery here, I would say. So where should I begin with this movie? If you want me to give you the short review, because I think this is going to be a long review, I have a lot to say about this. If you wanted the short version of this, basically the first 40 minutes of Sinister are genius. They are like, the first 40 minutes of this movie are masterful. But the film very, very quickly goes downhill after the 40-minute mark. The 40-minute mark is when the film goes right down in quality. And having said that, I would still say you should definitely watch Sinister. It's just for the first 40 minutes of the movie. The first 40 minutes of this movie are solid. The first 40 minutes of this movie are just genius. They're just fantastic. But the movie very quickly goes downhill after that, although the film is still worth watching simply for the first 40 minutes. Like, I'm gonna buy this film on Blu-ray just for that. The first 40 minutes of the movie. They are worth it. Okay, so let's discuss the film's strongest aspect first. The death scenes. So Ethan Hawke finds this box of snuff films in the attic, like I said. I think there's like 5, if I remember right, 5 films. And on each one of these films is a family getting killed in like really, really disgusting, really disturbing, really, really creepy ways. And so the death scenes are the best part of the movie. They are really effective. So everyone, of course, will have their favourite death scene. Most people seem to say the lawnmower. That's what I've heard a lot. People, for the most part, say the lawnmower is their favourite death scene. I completely disagree. If anything, that's like one of the weakest. Honestly, it's one of the weakest. All that is a jump scare. It's just really cheap. So I guess people are like, oh my god, it made me freak out, so it's amazing, or something like that. I don't know, maybe you genuinely like it, but I really didn't like the lawnmower. It just pissed me off because of how cheap it was. To me, the best death scene in the movie, hands down, was the hanging death. It's all over the trailers. If you've seen the trailers, you know what this death is. So the hanging death is by far the most effective and most terrifying death in the whole entire movie. Like, holy shit, that death is creepy as fuck. Like, the hanging death, to me at least, was terrifying. Like, everyone has their own things which kind of like creep them out, or, you know, really get under their skin. Like, I don't know, pale skinned ghosts, that's another thing which like creep me out. Or like porcelain masked killers, that's another thing that freaks me out. Like, everyone has their own like fears, I guess. Like drowning is a really big one for people. And to me, like, hanging is one of them. Like, when people, like, when you always have that inevitable conversation with someone where you say something like, what do you think the most painful way to die would be? And people are always like getting burnt alive, or, you know, getting eaten by a shark, or again, I don't know, you know, people are saying that sort of shit. Like, the really generic answers you get a lot are like drowning or being burnt alive. If you asked me, I would say, yeah, sure, probably drowning, but also hanging. Like, hanging just seems really creepy to me. I mean, like, I don't know, just the thought of actually like dying that way is like terrifying to me. And like, Jesus Christ, like, I don't know, the image of someone kind of like being hanged and just like kicking and screaming around and shit, is a really creepy image to me. I've always thought so, and like, not much people seem to say this. I was kind of like, I don't know, like, how common this like fear. I wouldn't say it's a fear of hanging or whatnot. I mean, but you know, it's just the image of someone hanging, or the idea of being hanged. It gets underneath my skin really easily, so that death really got to me. Like, it was really effective to me, and especially since it's a short drop hanging. I mean, you know, like sometimes people, like, you know, when they get hanged, like they break their neck, so it's like painless. But then, you know, of course you got the short hanging where like someone gets lifted off their feet, or a short drop, so they, like, you know, they're kicking around for like 8 minutes before they die. So that kind of thing is like really creepy to me. Like, it really gets underneath my skin. So to me, the hanging death was like really scary. And so yeah, to me that was the most effective death. My second I'm gonna rank the deaths in order. So the hanging death is the best, followed by the pool, followed by the car, followed by sleepy time, followed by the lawnmower. The lawnmower, I would place it at the bottom of the list. I was really, like, that just really angered me. And the fact that everyone is saying is so amazing when it's so obviously not, in my opinion, it's like really get me like agitated about it. Like the lawnmower death, like, it's bringing it down because everyone is saying how amazing it is. So like when I actually watched the film, I was like, really, this is what everyone's raving about. Because like everyone was like, it's just saying to me, oh, when you watch Sinister, you're gonna love the lawnmower death. You'll love that. I'm like, so when I finally watched the movie, I was like, what? This is what everyone's raving about. I was like infuriated. I was really expecting something really awesome there. But the hanging death was great though. The hanging death's really effective. So the death scenes are they're done really well because of course they're being shown on projectors through Super 8mm films. So for those of you who don't know, they're like really old-fashioned films. Like, you know, we've gone from like beta tapes to VHS to DVDs to Blu-rays. Like back then it's like Super 8mm films, so the quality is absolutely atrociously bad. Like the quality on Super 8mm films, for those of you who don't know, like it's like really bad. So it's like really grainy, and it's like it's like stuff missing, like spots are appearing all over the place. So when you're watching the family get killed, all these different families getting killed in these really disgusting ways, it's kind of like, of course it makes it feel more real, like a snuff film. Because I don't think when we think snuff films, I don't think anyone thinks watching. When they think about snuff films, I don't think they think 1080 HD widescreen Blu-ray, you know. The shitty kind of quality obviously enhances how creepy these deaths are. And now this is where I do feel as if the death scenes could have been done a lot better. There's kind of a bit of potential wasted here. Basically they play music in every death scene, and I feel as if the film would have been a lot more, the deaths would have been a lot more effective without the music. If it was all just in silence, you saw all of these death scenes in silence, and the only sound you heard was the sound of the projector like spinning around, and that was the only sound you heard. I feel as if the deaths would have been a lot scarier and a lot more creepier if that was the only sound. But instead they have all this music playing, and in my opinion it just ruins it. It just ruins it. I wish it was all in silence. However, speaking about the music though, before we move on, having said I feel as if the deaths would have been more effective without the music, the car scene, the car death, we'll just call it the car death. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about here, but the car death, the music in that scene was amazing. Oh my god, I've never heard anything so messed up in my whole entire life. I mean, you thought the theme song for American Horror Story was messed up. You really haven't heard anything yet. Like, when I heard the theme song for American Horror Story, I was thinking, there's no way in hell I will ever hear anything more bizarre than that. Jesus Christ. The music in the car scene is absolutely terrifying. I've never heard anything like this in my whole entire life, and I don't think I ever will. I don't think any piece of music will ever surpass how creepy this music was. So, Jesus Christ, well done to the director. I heard the director, he spent 2 weeks on the internet just trying to find scary ass music to put into the film. And while I feel as if all of the other music he selected isn't creepier than Dead Silence, this one piece of music is scarier than Dead Silence. I'm not talking about the film Dead Silence, I'm talking about, you know, silence, as in silence here. But basically I feel as if the music in the car scene was terrifying. Like, you Google it, it's on YouTube. Just type in barbecue scene, Sinister, scary barbecue music. Just type in that. The music is messed up. I've never heard anything like this before in my life. I mean, whoa, it's genuinely creepy. I was so impressed. I was like clapping when I heard the music. I was like, Jesus Christ, this is amazing. Like, that scene should have gone on longer. That music was top notch. I'm just saying, I can't like go over how awesome the music was in that scene. It was terrifying. So the music was really effective in the car scene, but every other death scene should have been played in dead silence because, like I said, I feel as if the death scenes would be a lot more unsettling and really uncomfortable in dead silence. But instead, you got this music playing. I felt as if the music took me out of the mood. Okay, so moving on. The other way I would have improved the death scenes is by showing every single death in one shot. This is a really big problem I had with the death scenes. Although they are very effective, they could have been so much more. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is how I feel as if the death scene should have been all in one shot. Every every like home video which Ethan Hawke plays should have been shown to us, the viewer, in one shot. So if you haven't seen the movie, this is how it's kind of edited or shown to us, the audience. So Ethan Hawke, he puts the the film reel in the projector, plays it. Yeah, here we go. We get to watch someone die. Okay, so they are obviously showing us what is on the projector. They're showing us like I don't know, the family getting hanged, for example. So the family's kind of like standing there with the nooses around their necks, and it's connected to the tree and all this shit. But basically, we cut to Ethan Hawke and to his reaction, and he's like, "Oh my god!" Like he obviously gives that the really generic facial expressions. Like, "Oh my god!" Like, "Oh wow!" I really didn't expect him to have that reaction. I mean, so he gives the expected reaction any human being would have. So we see the death scenes. We see the family like standing there with the nooses around their necks. Cut back to Ethan Hawke, he's like, "Oh my god." Cut back we cut back to him for like 10 seconds. Cut back to the death scene. The branch like collapses. You got to watch the movie, but like the branch collapses. It gets sawn off by the killer. The branch collapses and the family get launched off their feet and suspended in midair. And then they're like kicking and screaming around for like 10 minutes until they die. It's pretty scary. But back to the thing. So it's like the family again, like lifted off their feet. We cut back to Ethan Hawke, and it's like to him for like 10 seconds. Cut back to the family screaming. Cut back to him for like 5 seconds. Cut back to the family, and then they're dead. And then we cut back to him. It's kind of like they do that for every death scene. Like, I'm only describing the hanging scene because it's a really well-known one. Like, everyone knows about the hanging one. It's all over the trailers. Everybody knows about the hanging death. So like they do that for every death scene basically. We keep cutting back to Ethan Hawke's reaction. So it's kind of like taking me out of the mood. It kind of ruins the atmosphere when we are constantly jumping back to Ethan Hawke. We should have just stuck on the death scenes for one single shot. Like, one really uncomfortable, unsettling, shots with like dead silence. Like, that's what they should have done. You really don't have to cut back to Ethan Hawke every damn time. That may be partially because I think the hanging death is the scariest of the film. Now, like I said, hanging is kind of like a personal thing to me. Like, it's what I find creepy. But also, it's the only death in the film which you see in one shot, because how this movie opens up, it immediately, literally the first shot of the movie immediately opens up with the family just standing there. It's a good way to open the movie because, of course, like, people, especially those who haven't seen the trailer and don't know about the hanging death, they're like, what the fuck is this? Like, as soon as I see, because obviously the first image you see is the family just standing there with the nooses around their necks. You're like, what the hell's going on? And then the branch collapses, they get lifted up, and so you do see it in one single shot at the very beginning of the movie. You see the hanging death in one single shot, and it's in dead silence as well. There's kind of like a staticky sound, or a really quiet, really drumming, like staticky sound in the background, but that's it. It's not really noticeable. So it's basically the equivalent of watching it in dead silence. So you're just watching this family die, and you're just kind of like sitting there watching them scream around, like, as they suffocate or whatever for like 60 seconds. You're just watching them kick around in dead silence in one single shot with no interruptions. And then eventually their bodies go limp eventually, and even when they're finally dead, you still just see their bodies kind of just hanging there for like 15 seconds before we cut away. So aside from the fact that hanging is kind of like a personal thing to me, it's what I kind of find really creepy. Having said that, I also think I find the hanging death the creepiest out of all of them, because we see it from just in one shot, like I said. We don't cut back to Ethan Hawke all the time. Like the sleepy time death. We cut back to Ethan Hawke all the time in the sleepy time video, and it really ruined it. And even on the money shots when the family are actually getting killed, we are cutting away. This isn't me being a gore hound or anything, like the fact that they cut away from the gory shots in sleepy time. And like they should have stayed, like, because like I said, showing it all in one uninterrupted shot would have been really, really creepy. Like that's the way they should have done it, but they didn't. So now, having said that, I know I'm like bitching about the death scenes here, but I'm just saying how I feel, in my opinion, they could have improved them. The death scenes were still really, really well done. Don't get me wrong, but this is how I personally think that they should have done them. Like they would have been far superior. And also the hanging death would have been a lot creepier if you saw it later on in the film. Like the fact that they showed it at the start of the film, yeah, sure, it's like, yeah, you're grabbing the attention of those with like a really, you know, a really short attention span, let's say. So for people who like can't really get into films like quickly, you need to show them like someone getting killed at the beginning of the movie to grab their attention, you know, those kind of people. So like for that sort of crowd, like I guess that's why they're showing the hanging death at the beginning of the movie, but it was really unnecessary. Like screw that, you know, screw that type of audience. You should have immediately began with Ethan Hawke moving into the house, because what they do, they show the hanging death, and as soon as the hanging death is done, we immediately cut to Ethan Hawke moving into the house. And it should have immediately began with Ethan Hawke moving into the house. That's how they should have done it. So when we see the hanging death the second time round, when Ethan Hawke discovers the tape in the attic, it does lose its impact when you see it the second time round. But you know, whatever. What can you do? Okay, so moving on. Let's talk about Ethan Hawke's character. So he's, you know, the writer. He's a really good character. He's really well written. You really get what he's about. Like, immediately the first question you get, you would, you know, think of when you watch this movie is, why doesn't Ethan Hawke show this box of snuff films to the police? Like, obviously that's the first question which would come to your head, and it, you know, it's a valid question, but it is explained in the movie. Basically, it's basically like he's really upset. Like he basically wants the glory. Like he wants to try and solve this mystery. So he's kind of like, you know, really closely watching all these films. Like you get why he doesn't go to the police, basically. Like you get the character. Like I'm not going to explain the character to you, but when you watch the movie, you do get why he doesn't go to the police. You understand his motivations, his intentions and everything. So I feel as if he's a really well written character. And Ethan Hawke is Ethan Hawke, so he's awesome. Like he's a great actor in this. He does a good job. The deputy, he's like this is a side character. The deputy, he's a really awesome character as well. He's kind of like he's there for comedic relief, but he's like really lovable. Like he's really likable. Like he's kind of like a really kind of like a shy, really socially awkward fanboy of Ethan Hawke. So he's kind of like, you know, I can't remember if he gets his autograph, but he's kind of like, oh, if you need any help, I'm willing to help. You know, he's kind of like a socially awkward fanboy of Ethan Hawke, but he's really cool. Like he's really likable. He was a great character, and they balance the lines of comedic, you know, comedic relief with the deputy really well as well. So the balance of like a little bit of humour with the deputy was done really well. Okay, so this is a lot of people complain about this. The movie is really predictable. The ending, you know how this movie's going to end. Now, the twist, if you can call it that, or I prefer to call it the reveal. That's what I prefer to call it. But the reveal of the movie, everyone says it's predictable. Basically who the killer is. Everyone always says who the killer is. It's really predictable. Personally, I had the twist. Well, I had the identity of the killer spoiled for me before I watched the movie, so I can't say whether or not I found it obvious or not. But everyone, or at least the majority, seemed to say that they were able to work out the killer. They thought who the killer was really obvious throughout the film. So that's what everyone else's opinion is, if that means anything to you. Like I said, I had that spoiled for me, so I can't give you my opinion on whether or not I found it predictable or not. But what happens at the identity of the killer aside, who killed the families, like the identity of the killer aside, I do think the ending was predictable though. Like what happens actually happens at the end. It's like, you know what's gonna happen as soon as I can't say, I don't want to spoil it, but it is obvious. And the thing is, just because it's predictable, what happens at the end, just because you know what's going to happen at the end, it doesn't mean it's a bad film or anything. Like, a lot of people complain about it, but I'm like, why are you complaining? What's the big deal? I mean, it's fun seeing how these characters get to that you know, get to this point. It's fun seeing how the characters get to that point in time. So you know, I still had fun watching the characters go there. You know, going on their journey to get to that point. I don't mind. That was really predictable. Having said that, the ending sucked. Yeah, I know. I was praising the film there, but having said that, and I don't mind. I didn't mind the film was being predictable. So having said that, the ending was shit. Just saying. Why? I really can't tell you why, because of spoilers. But the way it's done, what happens at the end of the movie, it's handled, shot, edited. It's done really poorly. It's acted fine, but it's edited and just shot, you know, everything. It's just done poorly. It's not done well at all, and it's really anticlimactic. And I will go into specifics here in the spoiler section of the review. So the ending sucked. Just saying. Oh boy. Okay, I'll get into that later. Oh, okay. Jump scares. There's a lot of jump scares in this movie. I do mean a lot. There's a lot of them. Only one or two of them actually made me jump. But geez, there's quite a lot in this movie. There's a few jump scares, like the attic door slamming shut with the force of 1,000 suns. And like, you know, the mag with enough power to like bust your eardrums. They have a bunch of jump scares like that. So you got stuff like the there's a few false jump scares, like the attic door slamming shut. And this is in the trailer as well. The boy in the box jumping out the box. What the hell was that about? Night terrors? I mean, come on, that was a lame ass scene. Why was that in the film? I thought it looked stupid as hell in the trailer, and it was just even stupider than what it looked in the trailer when I actually watched the film. That was wow. Why was that in the film? You have this really creepy stuff with, you know, these snuff films, really creepy stuff, and then you have this really like cliche kind of false jump scare with the boy going into that really cliche backwards bent, you know, position, which you always get all the time in horror films. I was just like, you know, I was just like embarrassed to be watching the movie at that point. They shouldn't have done that. That was a big mistake. So they have a lot of jump scares. For the most part, they didn't piss me off, actually. I was okay with most of them because there's a few false jump scares, but I think the majority of them worked quite well, though. Especially the ones involving Mr. Buggy as well. He has some great cameos in this movie. The way he pops up is sometimes pretty creative. Like, I love the attic scene. The attic scene where, you know, there's a projector, you know, the only scene in the film where the projector is playing in the attic. That was creepy. And the jump scare in that scene was, I really liked that. The way Mr. Buggy popped up was great. I really like that scene. It's spoiled in the trailer, but it's still really awesome. Like, I knew it was coming because I saw the trailer, but I was still like, that's great. I really like that. Okay, so we got the jump scares out of the way, yeah. Okay, so let's talk about Mr. Buggy. The villain of the movie is Mr. Buggy. This isn't like a spoiler or anything. This is a pretty common fact by now, but basically the movie is supernatural. It has a lot of supernatural elements to it. So Mr. Buggy, he's like this demon or ghost kind of creature, I don't know, creature, spirit, whatever you want to call him. He's like a demon or whatever, you know, call him whatever you want. But Mr. Buggy, he's like the villain of the movie. His design is cool. I like the makeup on him is really cool. You know, I like his face and everything. That looks great. And so yeah, he's a cool looking villain and all. He looks pretty creepy. But this is my big problem with the film. This is where the film went downhill. Well, this isn't necessarily why I disliked the film as much as I did. I'll get into this later, okay? But basically, the film goes into the supernatural realm, you know, into the realm of the supernatural, basically. And I feel as if the film would have been a lot more effective, a lot more interesting, a lot more impactful, a lot creepier, etc., etc., if we stuck with reality. I feel as if they kept it grounded into reality, it would have been a lot creepier. And of course, you're probably wondering, well, if they did this in reality, who could be the killer? Because you know, they've got like these the murders dating back to like the 60s, so how could this one guy still be killing people? Well, they could just do a cult, you know. A cult is what is killing people. And like cults can be really scary when done right in films. Like Paranormal Activity is a good example. Well, I mean, like in Paranormal Activity 4, Jesus, that was bad. The cult in Paranormal Activity 4 was done really badly. Really badly. But they can be done cults, they can be really, really scary when done right. Like, cults can be easily terrifying. A certain British movie, which was released last year in 2011, is a good example, but I can't say what British horror movie this is because it would be spoiling it by saying there's a cult in it, because that's like the twist of the movie. It's like it's basically a movie and like the cult don't appear until the very end of the movie, and you're like, where the hell is this coming from? Because like there's no, like, all of a sudden cult, like there's a cult in the movie out of nowhere at the very end. Like the characters encounter the cult while walking through the woods. The characters are walking through the woods, and a cult comes out of nowhere, and it's kind of like, what the hell is going on now? Like but the cult in that movie was scary as hell. Like the masks and everything they weared, and like it's scary. I guess like the sheer, like, the thing is with cults, I guess why they can be so scary is because like it's just the sheer number of people. Like when it's like a large amount of people, like it's kind of out of your control. Like sure, if you have a gun, I guess you can kill people, but when it gets to like there's like you know, like 100 people trying to kill you for whatever reason, there's not really much you can do about it. It's kind of like you just got to accept your fate. So I guess it's just down to the feeling of helplessness and the fact that you can't control your fate. That sort of stuff is why cults can be so scary, because you can't overpower a cult. You're pretty much screwed if a cult wants you dead, you know. So I feel as if a cult would have been a lot scarier you know, well, this film would have been a lot scarier if they went down a cult angle, like had a cult be the killers and whatnot involved in the murders. And another reason why a cult would be so effective in Sinister as well is because, like I said, you can't really overpower a cult. If a cult wanted to do something really horrible to you, you're pretty much screwed. There's nothing you can do to defend yourself, really. Like when it's like a cult of 50 people, like you're dead, you're screwed. Like, and especially in Sinister, because you got this, the families are getting killed in really disgusting, really painful, really gruesome ways, like the hanging. Like I certainly don't want to die by hanging, you know. So it's kind of like, if a cult ends, like, you wouldn't, like what I'm saying is, like, having a cult in Sinister would be so creepy because, like, the cult is killing these families in really horrible, disgusting, really painful ways. Like when you watch this movie, you're always like, oh, I would not want to die like that, you know. So it's kind of like I would not want this cult after me. So it would kind of make the cult in Sinister really scary because they're killing people in gruesome ways. So like if they decided to come after you, it's kind of like God knows what's in store for you. Like God knows how they're gonna kill you. It's like that sort of thing, if you know what I mean. That's what I'm trying to say. Like why the cult would be scary in Sinister. So I do feel as if they should have done a cult in Sinister. Instead they went down the supernatural route, which I don't know. I just wish they, I don't know. Like the fact that they went supernatural isn't why I dislike the second half of the movie. The reason I dislike the second half of the movie is because, like, Mr. Buggy, he was cool. I liked him. He was fun, but the ghost children. That's what I hated. Ghost children. So there's ghost children in this movie, and they are introduced at like the halfway mark-ish of the movie, I would say. But jeez, as soon as they popped up, I was like, I'm done. This movie, out the window. Like, I wasn't quite like that, but as soon as the ghost children showed up, I was like, really? We're really going down this angle? Really? Like, really? Like, that, from that point onwards, the movie, it goes downhill really quickly. The ghost children, really unnecessary. It's just like, from that point, it just became every other horror movie I had ever seen in my life. So, like, you know, the setup to this film is genius with the deaths, with these snuff films in the attic, because they are genuinely creepy. And even when we got to the point with, like, so you know, I was more like, I was more hoping for a cult angle, which is obviously what they don't do. But even now, when they have stuff like Mr. Buggy popping up on the, you know, popping up on the snuff films and stuff, that stuff was, like, really effective. It was, like, pretty creepy. Oh, hang on, I've got... The battery's running. Okay, so continuing on, I had to put in the battery. So what was I saying, like the cult angle, I feel as if it would have been a lot creepier, a lot scarier, a lot more interesting. But even then, I was still happy with them going down, I was still okay with them going down the supernatural route. However, the ghost children is what ruined it for me. They really, really damaged the film. Like, almost, like, you know, they damaged the film greatly, almost to the point where they retroactively made the rest of the film really bad. Like, I really, really disliked them. It was a really poor move, in my opinion. So, The Ghost Children, big mistake in my opinion. That's where the movie very quickly went downhill and became every other horror movie ever made. Because you had a genius setup with these death scenes, and you know, Mr. Buggy being on all of them, that was fine. Like, you could still work that in with a cult and keep Mr. Buggy in the film, even with a cult. Because you can just say, you know, the face of Mr. Buggy is just a mask, and it's the mask which the leader of the cult wears. That's what you gotta say, and you can still incorporate that image, because the Mr. Buggy visual, it's a great visual, and you could still keep that into the film by saying it's a Mr. Buggy is just the mask which the cult wears, or at least the cult leader, and like, well, then you're still gonna say, it's like, well, how can the cult leader stay alive? Well, you know, the cult leader dies, someone else becomes the cult leader, so they get the mask now. That's how it works. But yeah, so that's basically my biggest, like, you know, my biggest issue with this film. It's the ghost children. So it's just like, really? Like, wow, this film had so much potential. Like, I wanted to love this film, and I was loving it, but as soon as those ghost children showed up, I was like a part of me died. I really wanted to love this film. And don't get me wrong, I still enjoyed it, but I wanted to love it. Like, it had so much potential, and it all goes out the window as soon as the ghost children showed up. Like a part of me did die at that point, because I was so disappointed. I was like, what could have been an amazing film is now just going to be a good film because of these children. Okay, let's move on though. This movie was rated a 15 as well. I don't know what, I think it's rated R in America, but here in the UK it was rated a 15. I was really surprised by that. I mean, I think this film should be an 18, because some of the images in this movie, they warrant an 18 rating in my opinion. But well, you know, that just kind of shocked me when I found out that it was just a 15 rated movie, as opposed to being 18, of course. Okay, I'm coming to the end here. We're going to be going into spoilers in a minute. In a minute, but the last shot of the movie is atrocious. It's offensive. Like, if I ever make a top 10 like worst jump scares list, this would be number 1, I think, or at least near number 1. The way this movie ends, oh god, like, I'm not talking about the events of the story, let's say, but what is in the final shot of the movie. If the final shot of the movie was 2 seconds shorter than what it is, I would have been fine. If you see the movie, hopefully you understand what exactly I'm talking about here, but the last shot of the movie is 5 seconds too long, and I felt like punching someone in the face after it, because it was insulting. Like, literally, I felt insulted by the director. That I was insulted that he actually did that. I was like, wow, did you really just go there? I can't believe you just went there. Like, I was honestly like thinking that. I was like, Jesus Christ, I can't believe you just did that. I was just like, so I was infuriated by that. What happens at the very end? And the thing is, it didn't get me or anything, but I was just so pissed off that they actually did it. I was like, I can't believe you just did that. Okay, I think that's all I have. Oh yeah, one last thing. This is honestly the last thing now. I think Ethan Hawke, as a you know, his character, underreacts a bit. Like, really, really underreacts. Why? Well, without going into spoilers, let me just describe this to you. He dismantles the projector, places it into a box, turns off his laptop, which I assume he has a password for, right? You know, of course, that makes sense. So I assume he has a password for his laptop, because he has a video. He basically records each of the deaths on the projector. He records them and puts them on his laptop. So not only does he have physical copies of them, he also has like copies of every death on his like hard drive. But basically, it's this is what he does. He dismantles the projector. I'm just describing this for those who haven't seen the film. He dismantles the projector, puts it in a box, turns off his laptop, which I assume he has a password for, and then locks the door to this room. And then he goes to sleep, okay? And then like halfway through the night, he's kind of woken up, and he hears something coming from inside the room. So he unlocks it, goes inside, and what does he find inside? The laptop is on, playing the hanging death. So, you know, you're watching the family again, like hanged again. And then also the projector is set up and playing the hanging death as well. What would you do if you were in this position, if you were in his position? I certainly wouldn't stay in that house. I mean, there's only one explanation, well, two possible things that could possibly be happening here. A, the people that killed the family is still there, or the group of people that killed the family is still there. and that they are probably going to kill you next, or B, there's something supernatural going on here. There's only two logical explanations. Well, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be the killer, but it could just be some teenagers messing around, I guess, who just went through the window, I guess you could say that. But even then, there's someone in your house. Get out. You know, I mean, geez, I would be out. I would leave straight away. I mean, it would be more reasonable to assume the person that killed that family by hanging them from the tree is, you know, the one that set up the projector. So obviously it wasn't the kids. Geez, like, obviously something is going on here, or someone else is in the house. Why would you stay here? You would be out of that house. So I do feel as if Ethan Hawke, like, this isn't Ethan Hawke's fault, it's the script, but you would have left the house at this point. Any sane human being would have left the house. Even an insane person would have left the house. No one would have stayed in that house any longer after that one event. That one event would have just been like, I'm out of here. No way in hell. Like, it doesn't, like, sure, I do get that, like, he's, you know, he's obsessed with, like, he wants, all the glory, he wants credit and shit for solving the murders and whatnot. But at that point, his life is clearly in danger. At that point, his life is, like, clearly in danger. Because the killer who killed that family is obviously about the place. So why would you stay in that house any longer? So I do feel as if Ethan Hawke's character underreacts to what goes on around him. But whatever. Okay, that's it. That's all I have to say about Sinister. So, overall, the first half of the movie is genius. It's fantastic. Second half, as soon as the ghost children are introduced, goes downhill so fast. Like, it's not even funny. This, like I said, a part of me died because I really wanted to love this film, and the film has such a fantastic setup that, like, it's genius. The death scenes are so creepy. Mr. Buggy himself, you know, great design and all, but the ghost children ruined it. Jesus. And the ending is predictable. It was still going to be enjoyable, but what happened at the end is still really bad. I can't say because spoilers. I'm going to say that in the spoilers. Okay, so I'm ending it there. So if you don't want spoilers, you better leave now, okay? So yeah, hang on, before we leave, overall, it was good, and I would say it's worth watching. It's still worth watching for the first 30 minutes of the movie. So I definitely recommend it, even though the second half of the movie was, like, went downhill. It's still definitely worth watching. I'm leaving it at that. Okay, on to spoilers now, so you should have left if you don't want spoilers by now. By the way, I swear to God, I'm hearing, like, doors and shit opening, like, downstairs and, like, stomping and shit. Like, I'm getting really paranoid here, like, talking about Sinister and kind of like, oh, shit, was Mr. Buggy or something. Okay, so let's move on to spoilers. Very briefly, like, I am recording this, like, what's the time? 10 o'clock at alone in the house as well. Okay, so on to spoilers then. So let's specify what I disliked about the ending. So I was okay with Ethan Hawke and the family getting killed. Like, a lot of people are saying, like, oh, you just don't like bad endings, you don't like sad endings. Like, some people are talking about this film as if I'm praising the ending as if it's the only film in the world to have a sad ending with where the good guys die. It's like, horror films do this all the time. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, Jesus, like, some people are like, you know, they're like worshipping the ending to this movie as if it's like, Jesus, I've never seen this before in a horror movie. Like, Jesus Christ, they do, if anything, the majority of horror movies do this, where the good guys die. What the hell is everyone talking about? Like, I was just, like, scratching my head when everyone was praising the ending in that way. So I was fine with, like, Ethan Hawke dying at the end and his family. Yeah, sure, like, whatever, that's fine. But what I have a problem with is the way they were killed, which was the daughter cuts them up with an axe, and that was really lame. I mean, of course you got stuff like, oh, download finished. Okay, I'm excited. I want to end this now because a certain download finished. Okay, so the hanging death, the drowning death, sleep time, getting the neck sliced, the burning death in the car with the creepy ass music, and the lawnmower death, like, really disgusting, really kind of creative. Well, I wouldn't say they're necessarily creative, but they are effective. The way they're done, it's really effective. But I felt as if the act getting cut up by an axe was just really lame. It was just really, like, uncreative, just really lame. You should have thought of something else. I don't know, like, have them tied to chairs, wrap plastic bags around their heads, you know. The daughter should have done that. I mean, you know, suffocation is another scary thing, I think. Like, hanging and drowning and stuff, you know, hanging and drowning, they both relate to the fact that you're running out of oxygen, that's how you die, because you don't have any more oxygen. So I think, like, you know, wrapping a plastic bag over someone's head, it's pretty much the same thing, right? So it's kind of like suffocation. That's scary too, right? So that would have been a pretty cool death, if you ask me. I would have liked that. But instead they do the getting cut up with an axe thing, and it's just shit. I was like, well, that's it. Like, I was anticipating a really awesome death, like a really elaborate, really creative death, and then it's just like, that's it? Really? Like, what the, like, what? Really? I'm just saying, I was really, really disappointed by that. And another thing, they should have shown the death, like, you know, from the projector perspective, like from the perspective of the Super 8mm camera. Like, you see it from the perspective of the Super... Because the thing is, for those of you who haven't seen the film and you're watching this now, the daughter is filming the death, like, you know, the killer's the daughter or son of each family. They are the killers of these families. But basically, the daughter kills Ethan Hawke and his family at the end. And I swear I'm hearing voices, but she's cutting up, like... So she cuts him up with an axe and she's recording it at the same time, and we see from the perspective of the Super 8mm camera for like 5 seconds, and that's it. And then it's shot like a regular horror film. And I was like, you should have shown the death just, you know, through the Super 8mm camera. Like, why didn't you do that? It's like basic sense. Why wouldn't you do that? Like, I was kind of like confused by how the director didn't think to do that, like, really. Now, the thing about the last shot, in case you haven't realised or caught on to what I'm saying about the last shot, which I hated and I was just like infuriated by, is the jump scare at the very end of the movie. So it ends on a shot of the box in the attic. Of course, Ethan Hawke gets killed by his family, and then there's... the final shot of the movie is the box of snuff films in the attic, but there's a new film, there's a 6th film added on at the very end, and it's called House Painting 2012, referring to Ethan Hawke's family. So, like, Ethan Hawke's family is basically, they are now in the Hall of Fame with this, you know, box of snuff films. Like, he's now the next snuff film in line, basically. So that was a cool shot, that's great. So that's what they should have done. Fade in, you see the box, 10 seconds later, fade out. That's what they should have done, and end credits. But instead, what they do is fade in, box of snuff films, zoom out, zoom out, zoom out, zoom out, zoom out, boo. Jump scare out of nowhere by Mr. Buggy. Courtesy of Mr. Buggy, I should say. But the thing is, you know it, like, you know it, like, you just know they're doing a jump scare. Like, as they slowly zoomed out, I was like, geez, you're really gonna do this, aren't you? You're really gonna do this. And then, of course, he jumped out of the screen. I wanted to throw my fist through someone's face as soon as I saw that. Like, it didn't make me jump or anything, but it just angered me that they tried to make me jump, if you know what I'm saying. Because it's just, it was so unnecessary, it's insulting. I just wanted to throw my fist through someone's face as soon as I saw it. Like, I wanted to grab the closest person to me and just... Oh jeez, like, it really, like, it did anger me. Like, I really hated that moment. It should have been too, like, why did the director even do it? Why did they feel the need to do it? I don't get it. That's really, when I'm just thinking about what was going through the director's head doing that. Like I'm kind of respecting the director for, like, doing these death scenes really well done, but at the same time I just despise him for the really atrociously bad jump scare at the end of this movie. Like, dude, what? I want to slap him and say, what were you thinking? Like, that ending was balls. Like, what was he thinking there? Okay, I think I'm done now. Oh yeah, the jump scare, I just bit my tongue. The jump scare I liked with Mr. Buggy though was, I'm gonna describe it to those of you watching this who haven't seen the movie, but basically, Ethan Hawke goes into the attic and he sees like a row of children, you know, the children that murdered their families. They are just sitting there in the attic, and between them at the end, like, there's a row of children like this, like, from your perspective, this is what you see in the film. There's a row of children here, then where I am is the projector, and on the projector is Mr. Buggy kind of standing there, and then all of a sudden, like, Mr. Buggy, because of course he's on the projector, but then all of a sudden Mr. Buggy, in, like, you know, in reality, swings his head down in front of the camera and, like, in front of Ethan Hawke's face, because he's like, you know, peeping into the attic like that. And then all of a sudden Mr. Buggy, like, swings his head down into view, and that's a good jump scare. I thought that was a really good one. Another one I really liked was when he appeared in the pool. That wasn't a jump scare, but that was really cool. When he's in the pool and he, like, you know, turns to face the camera. I thought that was really effective. And it wasn't even a jump scare either, it was just like him turning. I was like, no jump scare, so I was like, well done. You resisted the jump scare there, well done. And the other jump scare I liked is when even Hawk has a picture of Mr. Buggy, like stapled to the window or something like that, and so we're looking at the picture, and then he pulls the picture down off the window, and then you see Mr. Buggy standing right outside, where the picture was. I thought that was really cool, and yeah, okay, that's all I have to say about Sinister though. That was a really good movie. Did I say that's a really good movie? That was a good movie, ruined by it was a genius movie, ruined by the second half. Okay, I'm leaving it at that though, so yeah, that's what I thought about Sinister. I think that was a long review. How long have I been talking? Jesus, it's probably quite a while. Okay, I'm finishing that though. That's Sinister, so yeah, I still liked it. It was still a fun movie. Still worth watching. Okay, I'm leaving it at that. Okay, so thanks for watching and see ya.